Oh. All right, so I got Joel Farrell from Strive for 25 back today. Hopefully, he's going to be able to be my one of my weekly guests. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I saw him talking about on social media. It's also in his book, but he has this technique or strategy called the 2 minute rule. So, welcome, Joe. Can you talk about that a little bit for me?
Yeah, Mark, thanks for having me on. And first off, so much of the information out there, it's not, brand new. It's not, reinventing the wheel kind of a thing. It's, taking information out there and packaging it in a certain way that can connect and make sense with people. So the 2 minute rule is something that I actually read about personally in the book, Atomic Habits from James Clear. And so me personally, when I see people talking about how I've read, 52 books in a year, it's like, okay, you got all that knowledge, but have you actually spent time on actually taking that information and implementing it? And that becomes maybe probably a different conversation. So for me personally, where I took this 2 minute rule idea and put it into place is this kind of goes back to, pretty much this time last year where I was, am a person in the industry. I had this idea of Strive for 25. How was I going to help somebody build wealth, get ahead? And at that point, I had a YouTube channel. I had done, a few different presentations here over the years, and that's it. I had nothing else to show for it. And, at that point in time, mortgage industry was already kind of going in a certain direction of, hey, this is going to get pretty rough because the number of transactions that was just screeching to a halt as rates were going up, et cetera, et cetera. So I saw the writing on the wall. Hey, you know what I'm doing before probably isn't going to be enough to keep things going and sustain. So I started going down this path of, hey, well, what am I going to do different or extra to try to be able to keep business going in the mortgage industry? So that's kind of how I got down this social media path. And so at this point today, and I'll come back to 2 minute rule in just a second, but at this point today, since this kind of point in time in my life where I started putting these strategies in place or putting more of these in place, I've got an Instagram channel that I started on July 12th that didn't exist. And I posted pretty much every single day. Now I've got 2,800 followers. Cool. YouTube channel that's got over 100 subscribers. Cool. A book that it had been in my brain for too long, and now I just got it published, and now it's an international bestseller. Now I'm blanking. What else? Shit. Sorry, Mark. I'm blanking. But
No.
all this,
Twitter,
Twitter,
Facebook.
Twitter. Oh, and the podcast.
Oh yeah,
Now
yeah.
we're over 70 episodes into the podcast, which started in September. All these things were in my head, and you've got a son. I've got twin boys that are now going to be 4 in August. And so this time last year, they were 2.5 and a lot to handle, a lot. And my wife works, she's a counselor. So the time that I was putting towards these other platforms was time after they went to sleep, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever. And the way that they go to sleep, and if I don't personally do this, they want daddy to be in the room on the ground, laying with them until they fall asleep. So, in my brain, I'm thinking to myself, I had a long day, get home at 5, my wife's still working, take over, dinner, playtime, bath, nighttime. By the time that's all done, wrapped up, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And when I'm laying on the ground for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever, my mind starts to slow down. You relax. It's like, oh shit, I have to get ramped back up and try to get some more work done. And so there'd be days that I do it, days that I wouldn't do it. And it was just crushing me, this anxiety and pressure. Like, I know that I need to be doing this extra work to keep things going because, things are not going in the right direction. So that book, and again, there's so much information out there, and certain information, videos, speeches are going to hit somebody differently in terms of inspiration. But for me, at that moment in time, it was the right thing for me. So the 2 minute rule, this is what this means. If you can build a habit, right? The habit means that you're basically programming your brain to be able to use less energy for that specific action. So over time, a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is, you can build a habit and then take your focused, conscious energy, put it onto something else and put this other action on an autopilot. And so if you go through a series of days and weeks and all of a sudden that 1 or 2 days where you don't do that habit, right? You break the chain and you go back to zero and you got to start back over. So for me, it's like, I'm having good days, I'm having bad days, and it's just crushing me. So the 2 minute rule just means, hey, if you can just do 2 minutes, that's it. Show up, do 2 minutes, go back to the next day, whatever, show up again. And if you can do that 30 days in a row, then that's going to be the way to be able to build a habit. So in the book, he talks about somebody that, hey, you know what? Somebody that maybe not in the greatest shape, what he's going to have them do is literally just show up to the gym for 2 minutes and don't do anything. And then do it for a Monday, a Tuesday, a week. And then all of a sudden you show up every single day for 2 minutes. Like, this is weird. Come on. I can't be coming here every single day and not do anything. Yeah. And so then all of a sudden you start to build the habit of showing up, mastering the art of showing up. And, kind of going back to school, right? Like I was a crammer. I had good grades in school, but I crammed everything at the last second. I think that's probably the majority of people, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that, though, because that's what I always tell people about working out or going to. It's just getting there is the hardest part. Once you're there, just even if you do, like you're saying, a 2-minute workout, a 10-minute workout, but the hardest part is actually just getting to the gym. And a lot of time, once you're there, you're just like, I'm already here. Let's just do something. Let's get it done. Put in the work. And then, like you're saying, it just becomes a habit and it's easier to start doing it on a regular basis.
Totally. And there's different levels, right? We see the end result of somebody. We see somebody with 100,000 followers or 1 million followers, right? And we think that happened overnight. Or we see a LeBron James. Maybe he's not the greatest example because he's just an actual just athletic freak. But the dude's almost 40 years old and still at the top of his game because he puts all this work in. And those guys are doing it every single day and focusing on it every single day. And so maybe you're in sales, maybe you have a regular job or whatever. If you're mastering the little bitty things and you do it over and over and over, like, okay, cool. You reach a certain level and then you can kind of take the next level and the next level and the next level. And so, so many people that I talk to in the mortgage industry, there's just a lot of people that are comfortable, and it doesn't matter where they could be with a huge net worth. They could be somewhere where they're struggling and that's where their comfort level is. And they're okay with it. And this, comfort level, I think, is something that we all face. Where when things get rough, things get tough, well, you rally and you work to get back to this equilibrium. And it's like, well, what happens next? If you keep doing those actions to pull you out of that negative, you keep on going, then you'd be at a higher level. Well, sometimes when you get to that higher level, it can become just as uncomfortable as it is down here. And so we get stuck on this equilibrium. So like, that's kind of what it was for me is, okay, I got to push past this level. I needed to be able to do more. So how am I going to do it? It's figuring out strategies that help you, motivate you.
Let's unpack this a little bit, though. So has there ever been times that you literally did only 2 minutes of work? Like you said, you forced yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I look back on that, I take notes of stuff, I use my phone to write notes, like for me, this is kind of separate, right? Like Tim Grover is the trainer for, what was the trainer for Kobe and then also Jordan, right? He wrote the book Winning, Relentless. And one of the things he talks about is, these guys look at time differently. So most people, okay, I've got a deadline. I got to get this project done or workout done or whatever it is, whatever the thing is. And they count down to a deadline, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And all of a sudden you get close to that deadline. It's not done. So you half-ass and you get something done. Okay, cool. These guys look at things differently. They look at time completely different. They flip the script and it's like, okay, my goal is to be this, to be a champion, to be the best in my industry. And it's like, okay, well, I'm on day 1, I'm on day 20, I'm on day 200, and I'm just not going to stop until that becomes a reality. So that's something that I adopted over the last couple of years and just keeps that train of thought, that mission going, that vision going. So I'm, a couple things, day 400 or something, day 50 or something. That's just what I do. But going back to that moment in time, back in June and July of last year, I literally did that for probably 3 or 4 days where I 9 o'clock, turn on a timer on my phone. I'll, because I've got a Dell, it takes me probably 4 minutes to load up. So I didn't count the 4 minutes just so then once I got logged in, 2 minutes, which means like probably 1 or 2 things. I'm like, oh shit, okay. My timer went off. I guess I'm done. So I did that for a couple of days. Okay. I'm here. I might as well work for a little bit longer. And what was so interesting about it is that like, when I look back, it's like this anxiety, this fear ramping back up, right? Once I did that for 5, 6, 7 days, all of a sudden my brain started to knock down those walls of fear and anxiety and pressure. It's like, I started looking forward to logging back in, even if it was for 10 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it was. That pressure for me personally started to get unlifted. And so all that momentum, the consistency was literally what's led to all the things I've been able to accomplish, on this. And this is all a separate lane from my day job.
Yeah,
The last 12 months.
I see that also. I kind of talk about it a lot to other people about like when they go on vacation or trips, and I always try to find a way to work out or exercise when I'm on a trip or when I'm on vacation, just because I know how hard it's going to be if I stop. If I stop for a week or 2 weeks and then trying to get ramp it back, like you're saying, ramp it back up if you get to the gym or start a project. It's just doing something to stay consistent and keep your body in kind of this routine or moving forward. But I also want to kind of talk about, you kind of mentioned it, like you're saying, you have two twins, you have a job, your wife works. So you prefer the nighttime? Do you prefer like doing it after your kids go to sleep and finding that time to do this 2 minute strategy? Because like for me, I prefer the morning. I try to figure out how am I going to get it done in the morning.
Yeah, just I've tried the mornings, and just for me, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. And what sucks about it too is like, let's say I do get up in the morning and I feel like shit and I get some stuff done. It's like, well, what if all of a sudden I sleep through my alarm and now it's 7 o'clock and like I missed my 3 hour window to get stuff done. It's like, oh shit, I didn't get that done. If I do it at night, it's like, okay, I know that I can get some of it done. So yeah, when you wake up in the morning versus thinking about doing it at night, like why, or how, or what does that work for you for the mornings?
For me, it's kind of reverse of what you said. For me, waking up in the morning, it makes sure that I get something done. It's kind of like I forget who did that speech. That admiral, he did that speech about if you want to change the world, make your bed in the morning, right? It's kind of you wake up, you get something done, and it kind of sets the tone for the whole day. Like you accomplish something. The rest of the day could be horrible. It could be your worst day, but you got something accomplished first thing in the morning, and now you know that, hey, I did something productive today. I got it done, and whatever else happens the rest of the day, you can't control it or whatnot. But I got something done when I first woke up, and that's kind of how I start my day. So for me, I just work better making sure it doesn't, because everything kind of revolves around exercising, working out. And for
Yeah.
me, it was always like, okay, if I don't get it done first thing in the morning, I'm always thinking about it. I'm always worrying about, am I going to get it done? How am I going to squeeze it in? And then it just starts affecting the rest of my day. But if I can wake up, get stuff done, and then it just kind of sets the tone for my whole day. But I agree with you. A lot of people say, oh, you have to get up earlier. Waking up early is super important. But you got to understand yourself. You got to understand how you work best, what works best for your schedule. And like you're saying, you tried it, and for you, doing it late at night works better for you. And I think that's the most important thing, right? Everybody just has to figure out what works best for their situation.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And like one of the things you mentioned about, the admiral, the colonel, and making the bed, and like, everybody, like you said, everybody has certain things that they do differently. And it's like, finding a win in the morning, a little bitty win in the morning, right? So for somebody, it may be making the bed. For somebody, it may be putting something back, and it could be something different, right? It could be whatever it is, but finding those wins and then sticking to that habit, that anchor, is really kind of the moral of the story, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you say it, finding those wins, right? Every little thing is just finding a win, getting it done, and whatever. Like you're saying, those little things add up, right?
Yeah, and the mind is such an interesting thing, and there's so much you could probably talk about with how the mind works. And that win is there, right? Like, okay, if you make your bed every single morning, that win is there. Now, it's our choice or our option to think about it, to acknowledge it, to receive it as a win or not. And like, to me, I think that's one of the most important things that I've had to learn, or be more conscious of, is that, we go through our day and so much chaos that, especially in your industry where you're dealing with buyers and sellers, and now you're doing the short-term rental management stuff. And so you're dealing with chaos. In my job, I mean, same thing. In mortgage, we're dealing with chaos just nonstop, phone calls and whatever. Like a couple weeks back, I had a phone call with a realtor at like almost midnight because they were trying to put an offer on a property and what, like, that's just part of the business. And it's so easy to go through a day and not acknowledge anything, good or bad, but to be able to take some time throughout the day and acknowledge some of these wins or opportunities for improvement, a failure, right? Or struggle. It's just an opportunity for improvement. That's one way to
Yeah.
look at it. Or you can look at it as this terrible thing that just knocked you down and focus on that. And like what we think about it is our choice.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm trying to, rechange or change this format for my channel is talking to weekly guests and talking about different topics, not necessarily just strictly real estate, but just kind of mindset and, side hustles and entrepreneurship. But I think it's helpful seeing that other people are also going through these struggles or situations, and they're also trying to figure it out, because everything on social media, everything looks so perfect, the videos and the background, and everybody's, their hair is done or their makeup, and everything just looks that it's all 100%
Yeah.
perfect. But people don't realize there's so much stuff going on, and everybody's trying to figure it out. And I think that's kind of why I enjoy networking, talking to folks like you, and just trying to show people that you just got to find your tribe, and get around people that you can bounce ideas off of, or talk about your struggles, or just see what they're doing and see what's working for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the terminology of find your tribe. I mean, I definitely, buy into that. And like, what's so cool about talking about this right here, right now is that like, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I've lived under a rock for 15 years with my job, like just nonstop. Now I've got a family or, kids, and it's not easy to go network or go to an event and whatever. And even when you do that, or like, you've got your show, I've got a show, we're putting content out there. There's not that many people. Like, if you're scrolling on Instagram and you're seeing all this content, you're thinking like, oh my God, all these people are doing it. They're not. There's such a very, very, very small percentage of people that are out there doing it consistently and trying to do something. And so it's like the people that are geographically around me, there's not very many people that I can just run into that can kind of get where I'm going, understand what I'm dealing with or trying to get to. And so Twitter or other platforms is an opportunity to go find your tribe, wherever they may be. And you just happen to be, 5,000 miles away in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and like we just built a relationship over a number of months and time and connections. And here we are talking about real estate, which we both love and has changed our lives, and so finding a tribe and having an opportunity to be able to go find the people that you connect with and crossing state lines, like that's a huge opportunity that, years ago wasn't an option, like I say this all the time. It's like, today, if a 15-year-old wants to talk to their, attraction, whichever side of the fence you are, right? You just text them or you snap them. In our day, you get to call their landline and talk to their
Yeah.
mom or dad and say, hey, is so-and-so available at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night? You got to go through it's just a different way of connection and different way of communication and also expectation. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, I love that. We're gonna end it right here, but that actually gives me an idea for maybe our next topic. Like you said, people nowadays can just text, or send a message to someone, or email maybe, or even a direct message on social media. But I think that's actually a good point, is where this generation, they don't really know failure, or they don't have to face it, or they don't have to, like you're saying, they don't have to go up to someone and ask them to go on a date, or talk to them in person. They can just message them, and if the person says no, it's like, okay, you're not really embarrassed, or you don't really fall on your face, I guess.
That's true. I think that's a unbelievable topic that we could dig into, because fear of failure, dealing with
Yeah.
failure. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so much that goes into that in
Yeah.
terms of how it's changed and what's different.
All right. So this was great. So, maybe you can tell my audience where, like you said, you got this kind of 2-minute rule from another author or another book, and also tell them again where they can get your book.
Yeah. So the book that I reference is James Clear's Atomic Habits, bestseller book, amazing book. The book that I've produced is called How Literally Anyone Can Become a Millionaire. And the reason why somebody may want that book, the way that I've kind of described it is that, hey, if you're looking for an opportunity to be able to build wealth, financial freedom, etc., Like you need help, right? You're not going to have all the answers in one place. And especially like in social media, right? Like it's not about like who you know, what you know. And again, all this stuff is important. Your content is also very important, but like outlasting the rest is also a major perspective. Like Mr. Beast spent 7 years of creating content without ever having more than 1,000 views on a video. 7 years, and now he's going to be a multi billionaire. So outlasting the rest is a major part of that net engine. And so this book, tapping into the subconscious, building this magnet that's going to pull you to your dreams, creating it, designing it, strengthening it. That's what this book is all about.
Cool. Awesome, man. So stay there. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about kind of what you're dealing with in Florida with your rental properties. But thanks for this. And hopefully my audience likes this one, and we'll be back.